Good evening, everyone. It's a great crowd. I'm overwhelmed here. This will teach us to get set up even earlier than an hour before the show. Hopefully the theater manager's up in the projection booth because we're doing some of this manually up there to see when I'm done talking, and hopefully the film starts right after that. My name is Jesse Widener. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the current executive director of Klamath Film. I want to take a few minutes to tell you about our organization before we get into the program tonight. Klamath Film is a nonprofit organization here in Klamath Falls. Our mission is to build, promote, and support an industry of local regional filmmaking in and around Klamath Falls. And we do that in a number of sneaky ways, like this program you're going to see tonight. This is the third in a series of shows that we've done this year. We did the 2018 Oscar-nominated shorts earlier in the year. We try to choose programs that people don't necessarily have regular access to. We also are interested in showing programs that have an Oregon connection, or particularly a Klamath Falls connection, which of course in this case, Mr. James Ivory is the writer and producer of this film. He's from Klamath Falls and he's here in the audience to provide a Q&A after the show. These shows provide us an opportunity to let you know who we are, what we're about, why we're here, what we're doing, and the other programming that we have throughout the year. And the biggest one that we have is the Klamath Independent Film Festival coming up September 14th through 16th, so about a month from now. It's a 2.5-day festival. This is the 6th year running the festival, and it's the premier Oregon film festival. If you want to experience Oregon independent film, Klamath Falls is the place to see it. We dedicate more screen time to Oregon films and filmmakers than any other festival, and this year we received more Oregon film submissions than any other festival period. We received over 40 hours of content. So we wrote that down to the program that we have for you in about a month. We encourage everybody to go out to the website, check out the program, the trailers, the synopses. Extremely reasonably priced, great event for Klamath Falls. Now, we do the film festival for a number of reasons, but the big one is that we want to draw filmmakers down here to Klamath to see our area, to see our resources, to see how welcoming and friendly our community is to filmmaking, because we want to see that filmmaking happening here. Now, filmmaking obviously is great for the cultural profile of Klamath Falls, but it's also great for the economy of Klamath Falls. Anyone who knows of the Brother Nature production that was done a few years ago, shot largely in the Lake of the Woods area, Klamath Falls, Keno, that production brought $700,000 into the economy for the maybe 2 months that it was here. You've got to feed that cast and crew. You've got to house them. When they're not working, they're going to be around town spending their money on food and entertainment. So we want to see those productions here. Because of the success of Klamath Film promoting Klamath as a place for filmmakers to shoot, and because of the Klamath Independent Film Festival, we were instrumental in bringing an independent film that shot earlier this year in May, a feature film. So that's, again, contributing to our economy. A couple of weeks after that, Discovery Channel had a television show that they shot here in Klamath for a couple of weeks. There's a short film that's slated to shoot in the fall, and another filmmaker is looking to shoot a feature again next year. One of the other things that we do to encourage local regional filmmaking, our organization has a membership of aspiring filmmakers. Some of them actually are not aspiring because they've already achieved. We have some people in our membership who have extensive Hollywood experience. We have a stagehand who's worked on the Men in Black films and the Matrix films. Anyone who knows George Tyson, who runs the music store on Main Street, George is a Hollywood sound guy. He was a Hollywood sound guy for 30 years. We have members who are just starting out. They have no experience. They're dipping their toe in, seeing what it's about. Students. We have people in between, like myself. I've made a number of short films and been accepted to a number of festivals, and I'm learning as everyone else learns. Our membership is $15 a year, which is really nominal. It's probably going to change slightly next year. But that allows our members to attend our monthly meetings. We have one actually next Tuesday at the Waffle Hut, 6 to 8 p.m. in their banquet room. And anyone is welcome to drop in, talk to other members, see what it's about. We also provide basic filmmaking equipment to our members. So again, it makes filmmaking more accessible. We have a camera, some digital recorders, we have a computer with Final Cut on it for editing. There's no real barrier to filmmaking anymore but your own effort. For people who aren't necessarily interested in making films but still want to support what we do, whether it's this additional program that we bring in or the Independent Film Festival or what we're doing to bring film productions to Klamath Falls, our members also get slight discounts on tickets. So if you want to support us through membership and you go to a lot of our shows, your support's probably going to be paid for by the discounts that you get in tickets, and we just love to see the support. We need to see the support. We want everybody to be aware that filmmaking can happen in Klamath, and that people from Klamath can be successful in film. Obviously, Mr. Ivory is an example of that. There's a fellow by the name of Chris Eyre who grew up in Klamath Falls. He's considered the foremost Indian filmmaker in the world. He now runs the film program at the University of New Mexico. I was made, through our notoriety of the film festival, I was made aware of a filmmaker who graduated Klamath Union, and he's a producer now in New York for 15 years, and he was a producer on 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which was an Oscar-nominated film this year. I was contacted by a woman who is the professor of cinematography at USC. She graduated Klamath Union. She's made 50-some-odd films. She's a documentarian. We'd love to get her up here, show one of her films, and do a Q&A. So again, this is all part of what we're doing with Klamath Film, to make those connections, have some pride for Klamath in what we're doing, get people down here to shoot in the area because it's beautiful. Klamath is low barrier for filmmakers. I mean, the lodging's not expensive, the food's not expensive, and there's no real red tape. So again, we encourage everybody to go out to our website, klamathfilm.org, check out what we're doing, see if you want to support us, at least check out the film festival, see if you want to come to it. And you can also sign up for our mailing list down at the bottom of our homepage. We don't spam you with mail. If you sign up for everything, the most you'll get is 1 monthly newsletter of things going on around Klamath and film connections, and maybe every couple of months you'll get an email about an event like this. So without further ado, I want to get to the film. Before the film starts, there will be a trailer for Lean on Pete, which is our opening feature film for the film festival. It stars Steve Buscemi. It was shot half in the Portland area, half in the Burns area. Hope you all enjoy. Thank you very much for your support, for being here, and we'll have the Q&A with James Ivory afterward.
Okay, my question is, I noticed a lot of, I was really studying the actors throughout this and just the intricacies of their movements or pauses, or I'm wondering how much of that you write and how much of that is the director or the actors. So how much of these little things like a sigh or pausing for a certain amount of seconds before they say something or rolling their eyes or whatever, is that stuff that you give direction to, or is that all, beyond you?
Well, in this instance, I was not even there. So remember that I wrote this, but I wasn't present during the shooting. So you have to think that it's basically, it's a kind of partnership between the director and the actors. And the writer, at this point, is kind of out of the picture, in a sense. But it's very, very rare for writers to ever be on a set. And while this was being done in Italy, I was off in New York. So it's a kind of a mutual thing between the actors and the director. But it's mostly the actors, I think. If they're good actors, they know when to pause and what to do and how to roll their eyes and all that kind of thing. And if you really, I mean, generally you like it, and if you don't like it, you tell them not to do it.
Other question? Was there ever a time, you graduated, was it 57 from USC, filmology, whatever? During your long career, was there ever one time where you realized you could make it, or was it more a series of gradual steps?
I didn't think like that, somehow. I mean, I started out being a documentary filmmaker, making my own documentary films, and I made people like them, and I was working on the third one when I met Ismail Merchant. And he wanted to make a feature. He had always, all his life, and he was Indian, brought up in Bombay, and all his life, and then also movie mad, he wanted to make films in English or to be seen overseas. I mean, out of India. And that's what he wanted to do. And he offered me the chance to do our very first film and to become a director. And I really never, after that, I just went along, and he and I were able to do the films he wanted to, and I never felt, I don't think he ever felt that we weren't going to make it. I think we assumed we would make it, and somehow, it was a long time until we, in fact, actually had a hit. Years and years. Well, no, that's not quite true either. Our second film was very, very much liked, which was Shakespeare Walla, and wonderfully reviewed in all kinds of places all over the world, really. And so we knew we were onto something, but we just kept on with it and doing what we wanted to do. But I think we never had failures of nerve. At first, very little. I had not met him. And when I finished the screenplay, he lives in New York. When I finished the screenplay, I sent it to him just to, you do that. If the writer's alive, yeah, that's what you do. And he immediately said he liked it very much. He just, there were one or two little things that he wondered about that I had done, and we talked about it. And then he was there for some of the shooting. And in fact, he's in the film. He's one of the two guys who come for dinner, and that's the writer. And we remained good friends all along. I mean, of course, he was very happy with the film had such a success, but we never really worked together or anything of that kind. We never. There was one thing he wanted. A point that in my screenplay, I had the mother know about them or suspect, and she talks about it in bed with the husband, with the father. And he didn't like that idea. He didn't think it was a good idea to say that in the film. So we dropped it. And but that's all. I mean, never another thing.
How did you come to be involved in this film? I was familiar with the book before you became involved.
Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm really not quite sure anymore. I don't really remember. The people who I have neighbors in upstate New York who one is a producer and the other is an agent for a big Hollywood agency, and they had bought the film rights to the novel, and they'd gotten somebody else to write a screenplay, and this other guy wanted to actually direct the film, but he'd never directed the film. And so time went on, and they couldn't really raise the money because the director had to raise his track record, etc. And so then they came to me and gave me I think they gave me the book to read. Though I'm not sure that I hadn't read it before, but they gave me anyway. Well, they came to me and said, "Would I be an executive producer on it?" And I said yes. And the idea being because we'd made so many films, and Merchant Ivory was well done, could help them in some way to raise money. And but they couldn't get a director for it. And in time, they did in fact get Luca Guadagnino. But he, being Italian, was maybe a little unsure about making the film, which was primarily in English. And so he suggested that he and I direct it together. And I said, okay, why not? That's rarely done, but I said, sure. And basically, it was a film in Italy. And I love Italy. I go there as much as I can. And so the idea of making a film in Italy, again, was wonderful for me. I said, well, okay, I will direct it with you, but I want my own screenplay. And so I wrote a new screenplay entirely. And that's the screenplay that they were able to raise the money to put a film on, and everybody liked it. And but then it was decided that only he alone would direct the film, and that was okay with me. I thought that was probably fine. And it didn't bother me especially. And that's how I got into it.
Other questions? Make it right there.
Hi. So I did see that this was filmed in 35mm film stock, and I know that a majority of your films have been, if not all of them. I'm kind of curious on your views, realistically, on shooting digital versus film these days. I mean, we have kind of two spectrums of Tarantino that says if it's shot digitally, what's the point of going to the theater, because it may as well be TV. And then we have like Ridley Scott on the other side who shoots 6 cameras simultaneously with digital. So do you care, or is there any preference on for you?
I'll have to be honest and say I really can't tell the difference. So if I see a film I really like, I really don't care how it's been shot. It was digital, wonderful. And it was some now archaic way of shooting with film stock, and it's wonderful, and I'm happy with that too. So really, I don't have that kind of snobbery about all that. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I can't tell the difference. Well, I sort of can, but anyway. But it doesn't bother me if something is entirely on video. I mean, I generally like it.
Okay. First, I just want to congratulate you on the success of your film and the Oscar. Being at U of O while you came was really awesome. Just seeing that success, so again, congratulations. I'm interested in writing and directing myself, and I was wondering like what your process is when you're writing and adapting a screenplay.
On this film, this is the only film I've ever made that I entirely wrote the screenplay by myself, and I don't know. It's I don't just sit down and just do it like that. I mean, I think you can't. You have to think about it and make notes and come back to it and then go off and do something else. At least that's the way I work. I worked on that. But sooner or later, since it is a novel, you sit down with the book. It's right there, and you start from page one, and you go right through it, and you have to make decisions along the way, whether you want to cut something or the things you want to add, new scenes that you think up that you think would help. You might bring in new characters and all those kinds of things. Those are inventions, and those happen as they happen, or they need to happen. But finally, you're sitting with the book and going page by page and taking from the book what it is you need. And you're not really sure what you have until the very end. And I can't, in my actual habits of writing, I can't work on a computer. I can't write on a computer. I can't write on a typewriter. I have to write in longhand and then type out, when I get something I think I like, and I type it out, and then I paste it all together. And eventually you have a long pasted up thing, and that's what the script was. It was over 100 pages of bits and pieces pasted together. And that's unfortunately the way I have to work. It doesn't take longer, especially than the other way. I mean, I think it was 3-4 months, and that was it.
When you're done, there we got some down.
I wonder if you could talk very much about the casting and all, because I think Timothy Chalamet, or however you pronounce it, is just astounding. And I wonder if you felt that way about how he portrayed your character.
Oh, I did. I mean, but I knew him very early on in the whole process. I knew that he was going to play the lead because he was the client of the agent who had bought the rights. And quite soon I met him, but I thought immediately he was terrific, and I liked everything about him. There was another Oliver earlier on, which was Shia LaBeouf, and that may seem strange to you, having seen Hammer, but and we had all kinds of readings, and we met, and I talked a great deal with the director about who could play the different parts, particularly the father, the various people that we were interested in. And but I was from the beginning. Timothy was there, and that was fine with me, and it still is fine. And but the cast changed and went back and forth. This person, that person, and Shia LaBeouf couldn't really do it, or they were afraid to. That there might be something that would come up with him that would be a problem later on. So I don't know. Anyway, he wasn't ultimately cast. So.
Growing up in Klamath Falls, was there a particular book or movie, event, or person that
ignited your aspirations for movie making and writing to take flight?
I think just generally seeing lots of movies in Klamath Falls, and there were many theaters in those days playing, every kind of Hollywood movie, and I went to the movies constantly, and I saw really, and my parents never said there was anything I couldn't see. I just always went, and when I was about 10 or 11 or 12, there was a whole series of wonderful period movies of various kinds that were really terrific, and I liked so much, and like Gone with the Wind, films like that. And I've always been interested in architecture and houses and rooms, and I've always been interested in history, and that was the atmosphere. It was going to the movies a lot. But there was another reason. KUHS used to have a very, very quite professional little theater and drama courses run by the most marvelous teacher named Roberta Blomquist. And I'm sure there's some of you here who remember her. And she was a terrific person for someone like myself to get to know, because she was completely immersed in theater. And though I never wanted to be an actor or anything like that, I think I got an awful lot from her. And I'm only beginning to realize, in fact, how much. So those two things together, seeing lots of movies in all the different theaters in Klamath, and taking dramatics, it was called, from Roberta Blomquist.
Two-part question. Being of the LGBTQA community, we all have our own heroes and people have to look up to. Is there anyone specific in that community that helped you along or that you saw as a mentor?
In which community?
The LGBTQA community.
Oh, there are always lots of people. There are lots of people, sure, that you meet in life. Yeah.
My other question would be, can you speak about an accomplishment that you fought for or that you strived for in that community that you can, pride yourself on?
I didn't think like that, really. I never did that kind of thing. I mean, I was happy when everything happened in a good way, but I never myself really got out there. I was never a warrior for any cause. Yeah, I'm afraid.
In a way, you're a warrior for us.
Well, it has worked out like that.
I wanted to ask you mentioned you had an interest in architecture. Did you also have an interest in other visual arts? Because I feel that, I don't know if this is the direction, the art direction, but there's a certain painterly quality that is in a lot of your films, I feel like. And there's a lot of emphasis on sort of the setting of the scene sometimes, and almost as much as any dialogue. Is that you, or is that...
I can't see you. Where are you? Put your hand up. Because I want to very much answer that question. When I was in the second grade, I went to the Sacred Heart Academy, which doesn't exist anymore. In the second grade, a nun, our teacher, thought that the drawings that I did in school were very good for a 6-year-old, and she advised the parents of myself and a friend of mine, another boy in the second grade named Bill Wilson, and thought we should have painting lessons at Sacred Heart. And there was a nun there who was a very accomplished painter. You wouldn't think in a place like Klamath Falls and in a convent that there would be a very, very good nun painting and with a studio turning out large canvases with gold frames and great big landscapes of the West and all sorts of things. You wouldn't think there would be anything like that, but there was. And he and I, Bill and I, were put to doing all to learn how to paint. And for, I don't know, the first year we did nothing but just with watercolor fill in little boxes and things like that. And eventually we went on and on and on. So I learned to paint and in the traditional way. And I've always painted. And when I got to college, I also took painting, but I was also very, very interested always in places and buildings and rooms, and that's always been a part of what has interested me the most visually. So it was a mixture of me as an artist and what I was seeing in movies, and I was always interested in history. So all those things came together, and I wanted at first to be a set designer. That was my idea. And when I went to college, I was advised to take architecture, which I did for 3 years, with that as the goal. But eventually, I decided I wanted to do more than just than design sets. But there's always been I've always painted and drawn. So.
Of all your films, do you have a favorite?
All my films do have a favorite. Not really, and that kind of changes. There are some I like more than others. There are none that I dislike. I like every single film I made. And none I'm sorry about, or but I don't know. I go along for a while. I seem to like some of the English films the best, and then but then I keep remembering that those are some of the Indian films I made. I see those. I happen to see them at a event like this. I mean, gee, that's not bad. Or other American films that I've made. A film of mine that I like extremely, and it's very autobiographical. Was Mr. and Mrs. Bridge that we made in Kansas City, based on a novel or 2 novels by Evan Cannell. And that's a favorite of mine. And as I say, it's very autobiographical. Another autobiographical film we made is probably a film you've never seen called A Soldier's Daughter Never Cries, part of which was made in Paris and part of North Carolina. That too is very autobiographical. So I like those kinds of films of mine. But as I say, it just sort of moves around in my mind or my appreciation.
Was there any particular character is there a particular character?
Was there a particular that I more than anyone else? I think Elio. Yeah, I think you have to if you're going to write a script of that book, you have to identify with Elio. Where would you be otherwise?
You had told me at one point that as successful as you've been, you're still an independent filmmaker, and sometimes you have projects coming your way, and other times you struggle to the last minute to get everything together you do to that film. Sometimes it might be weeks away from shooting, and you're not sure.
Right. That happens.
Can you talk about that?
Well, you think you're going to make you imagine you're going to make something, and you work to get it ready, and you cast it, and you think you've got all the money, and then at the last minute you find out you don't have all of the money, and you might be just poised, ready to shoot the film. That happened with The Room with the View. There we were in Florence, and it had been cast, and people were working on the sets and all the rest of it, and we found we didn't, at the last minute, have all the money we needed for A Room with the View. We got it, luckily. And quite soon, but I can't tell you what that's like. I mean, and then the same thing happened in China when we made a film in China in Shanghai. One called The White Countess, I don't know if you know it, And it was the same sort of situation. And there were days when Islam would come and say, we may have to close down in a week, and that kind of thing. And there we all were, and an enormous crew in China, huge Chinese crew, and all these stars who come from England, and there we were, and Islam saying, we may have to shut it all down. And that just happens. It didn't only happen to us. Many films have had that problem.
Of the number of films that would have been sort of borderline on guard that you weren't sure as you were coming out to them, would you say that you pulled most of them through and only lost a handful?
We did, in fact, make every single film we set out to make. There was none that got into the actual process of production that we didn't make, luckily, or finish. Every single one we got through.
Any other questions, Mr. Ryder?
Now don't be shy.
Anything you have to say, let's try to get out. Mr. Ivory is on vacation, so we don't want to hold him to
yeah, but I can talk and at least question and answer things until the cows come home. Yeah?
It's a very short one. The title. How did you come up with that title?
Well, that was the title of the novel.
Yeah, but how did you come up with that?
I'm sorry.
It's the title of the novel, right?
Yes. So you probably have to ask the writer.
Oh, well, it's the idea is expressed in one of the love scenes in which Oliver and Elio decide to exchange names, and that was an idea of the author, and it's a rather unconventional name for a film, I think, but everyone wanted to keep it. The book was a very successful book, and people loved it, and so we decided to keep it. And the idea is, it's not a normal sort of idea that you exchange names with your lover. It's unusual. There are worse. And who was I to say no?
It's hard for us to hear the questions without the mic. Yeah, we can't hear the questions. We can't hear the questions.
Yeah. We can rephrase the question. What's the question?
So I know you said you went to USC and did architecture for years, but how did you really start your career?
The question was that you went to USC for architecture, but how did you really?
No, I went to the University of Oregon for architecture. And then, at the point that I was just graduating from Oregon, that's when the Korean War came along. And if you stayed in school, you didn't have to go off, you wouldn't be drafted. Well, actually, nobody wanted to be drafted to go to Korea. And so I immediately went into the USC Film School. That wasn't my plan. I was going to go, I wanted to go to the film school in Paris called the EDEC. And my French, and I went to France to learn French because all the courses would have been in French. And then the Korean War started, and so that plan had to be abandoned. And I came back and finished at Oregon and went straight into USC Film School. And while I was there, I was getting a master's degree, and I was supposed to, as always, write a thesis. But I thought, well, why did I make a film instead of writing a thesis? And they said, okay. And so that was my first film, and that was a documentary that I made in Venice. And that's how I got started.
What's the name of it?
That documentary? It's called Venice Theme and Variations. And it's out there. You can certainly find it if you. It can be had. It's out there. I'm not sure what. It came out of the Criterion DVD, and I'm not sure which one it's with. What film it's with. I think it's with a film of ours called The Householder. I think The Householder is an Indian film. Is combined with the Venice film.
Hi. So I was looking at what was next for you, and up next, one of your projects is directing Richard II. I also read that you've been wanting to tell this story for a very long time. What about that story makes you want to tell it? I'm
asked that a lot, and I never have a satisfactory answer, I think. I just have always liked that play, and I've always liked the character. I mean, he's really quite a pleasant man at the beginning, and then when he becomes, through adversity, he has a kind of passion at the end, and all your feelings change about him. It's just Shakespeare has the most marvelous poetry, as you probably know, and for all those reasons. And I've never done a medieval film, and I wanted to. And not only do a medieval film, but, well, Shakespeare. So that was my reason. And I hope maybe still to be able to do it. But nobody wants to do Shakespeare. And one of the reasons they don't want to do it is they say, well, I like the story, I guess, but all that poetry. So, I don't know what will happen.
You said that Mr. Marchand would come to you and say that you were out of money, or you didn't have enough money to start or finish the production. What would you do then? Would you start dialing
he always tried that. He always pulled it together. We never did. Well, there was one film we made, but we really didn't. We scarcely had any money at the end of it. That was Eaton Dust, another Indian film. And actually, the main actor, Shashi Kapoor, ended up paying our hotel bill. So we did get in some dire straits, but he always managed to pull it off.
While you're at your cabin in Lake of the Woods and working on something, what is your schedule like during the day? Do you work 12 hours or off and on? How do you do that?
We're really, it's a sort of off and on cabin, I'm afraid. We get up quite early. I always wake up early, but then I read, and eventually we have breakfast, and then eventually I get down to it. But, I don't work at it. It's rather hard to, you can't just sit down and write unless you have ideas. And the ideas can come from all kinds of places and in all kinds of ways. And you may not be at a place where you can write anything, but you get the idea, and as soon as you can, you make a note. And that can develop into something. And so that's the way I work. And eventually I have lots of notes, and eventually I do have to sit down with the book and get going. And at the moment, I'm writing a screenplay for Alexander Payne, and which is set in Chicago, in modern Chicago. And I've begun to work on that. But you don't work for 12 hours. I can tell you that. Well, okay. I made the first documentary. My father gave me the money, but it was successful, quite amazingly. In the middle of it, I had to go to the army. I was drafted, and I did go to the army, but I was sent to Germany. And so I started the film, and halfway through, I had to go to the army. And after 2 years, I came back and finished the film. And that film was very much liked. And the New York Times saw it, and in those days, the New York Times, they had a 10 best list for theatrical films and the 10 best list for non-theatrical films, and it got on the best list of the New York Times, and that led to another one that I did, again funded by my father, and that too got on the New York Times best non-theatrical film list. And so then I got a grant from the Asia Society in New York to go to India and make a documentary in India. I was making I made a sort of portrait of Delhi, a historical portrait of the city of Delhi. And that was the third film I made. And by the time those were there, I mean, they existed, and people knew about them, and everybody liked them, and they didn't make any money, but there they were. And at which point I met Ismail, and he wanted to make feature films, and he offered me the chance to make The House Builder with him. And as you wouldn't know this, but the Householder was picked up by, for worldwide distribution, a miracle, by Sony, except it was then called Columbia Pictures. And that's how we got going.
So, in the movie, we see the characters switching between French and English and Italian the whole time. And I find that really interesting. And I was wondering if most of that was based on the novel, or whether you had to work with translators while writing the script, or how that came about. I just think it's really interesting how that shapes the movie.
Well, let me say that the writer, André Asselin, who's Egyptian, in fact, and was born in Alexandria, but in the late 50s or something, all the Jewish people in Egypt were made to leave. And André Asselin moved to Italy and grew up in Italy. And so he was absolutely fluent in Italian. And so the novel was set in Italy on the Ligurian coast. And what you should have heard all the time was Italian. I mean, English, obviously, and Italian. But what happened was that they couldn't raise enough money in Italy, and the French got interested. And they said, well, we'll put some money in, but you've got to have some French actors. So suddenly, the people who were supposed to be Italian turned into French-speaking people, and Timothy Chalamet, who had been there always from the beginning, is half French and speaks fluent French. So, so we had a strange kind of mixture of a lot of English, mostly English, a lot of French, because we had several French actresses, as you saw them. The girls, Marcia and Chiara, were both, they were supposed to be Italian, but they turned out to be French, and so on. And the mother, you're not quite sure what the mother is, but she's French too, and she speaks very good English. So we had this melange of languages, and I'm glad that it sounds interesting and that you like it. I wished that, in fact, all Italians were Italian, but and so forth, but it didn't work out like that. You have to make these little adjustments according to who put the money on. Anybody?
Yeah, Jim, who was the finest actor that you've ever directed, and who's the finest actress that you've ever directed?
I can't say that. I'm not going to say that, but I can tell you, I think, well, I do feel, in a way, that James Mason was probably the best actor I ever worked with in our film Autobiographical Princess. I feel he was really the greatest. So, and that shouldn't hurt anybody's feelings. And there are a lot of them. I mean, they're wonderful. I'll tell you someone who was a wonderful, wonderful actor. There was never a word wrong or a foot wrong or anything, and that's Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant, we have an idea of Hugh Grant, but he is a superb actor. And I'm glad he's coming into his own now. And he's one of the best English actors of his generation, I think.
Don't forget Daniel Day-Lewis.
Well, of course, obviously Daniel Day-Lewis. No one's forgetting him. But we all know that.
Okay. So what did your father do for a living that was able to...
Well, he was a lumberman. And my father, we had a company called the Ivory Pine Company, and with a mill for a while here, and then the mill in Bly, and it generated enough money so I could make a couple of documentaries. But after that, I was very much on my own. I mean, we managed somehow to get money together. He did put some money in the house. It's true.
And I'm just so
impressed at the 90 you're so alert and just right on. Wonderful.
Well, I'm sort of impressed too. No, I mean, our first film, our first feature was called The Householder. It was based on this novel by Ruth Jambala. And I didn't have much of an idea about who to cast because I hadn't spent much time in India in that kind of a way, thinking about actors. But Ismail had a very good idea about who wanted to be in that film. And as we went along, and you learn more, and you see films, and you go to plays and so forth, and there are people you like and you try to get, and Asians come up often with the most wonderful people that you've never heard of, and you meet them and you think, well, okay, and then they turn out to be brilliant. So that's the way it is.
This is my second time to see the film. Enjoyed it the first time and loved it this time. The final scene, the face shot of Timothy,
right?
I'm guessing, was it maybe 90 seconds long? And how large of a part was it in your screenplay?
It was something similar in the screenplay. In my screenplay, he was decorating a Christmas tree and putting candles into the interior of a Christmas tree that was hung with ornaments and lighting those candles. He wasn't looking into the fire. So the film ended in the same kind of an image, which was a fire and the boy weeping and his face being illuminated by fire. So it was the same, but then they decided that there was a whole Jewish side to the family, and that they ought not to be having a Christmas dinner, but Hanukkah instead, and all of that. So we had to abandon the Christmas tree, or they abandoned the Christmas tree idea, and he looked into the fire. That's how that came about. But I have to say, I mean, a last shot of a film, it's a wonderful thing to be able to do something like that, and to have a wonderful actor like that who can carry it off. And I think it's more than 90 seconds. I think it's it's 3 minutes or something, or whatever. But he carried it off so superbly.
You began by telling us that you had some thoughts while you were watching the film tonight, and I was wondering if you would be willing to share some of those with us. And also, I was wondering if you had to do it over, whether you would do things differently.
Well, there are always things like that. And there are parts of my screenplay that, as far as I know, never got filmed because it was a very low-budget picture. They didn't have that much money. So there were scenes in my screenplay that I would have liked to have seen in the film, but they're not there. And I don't even know whether they shot them, and I suspect they didn't shoot them. There are things like that. Particularly, there was the whole relationship between Oliver and the older sister, Chiara. There was some very, very good, I think, interesting scenes between them, or with Chiara, but it turned out that the Chiara they had didn't speak any English, so that changed all of that. Those kinds of things happen. But no, what I felt tonight as I watched it, I was thinking, gosh, this is well photographed. How interesting the shots are, and even made me think of getting that guy to shoot one of my movies. The cameraman, he's Thai, from Thailand. Wonderful. And there were some other moments that I'd forgotten about. There was a moment when the music is too loud and you can't hear something important being said. Things like that. Things like that. You know.
I have two questions. When you're writing a screenplay, not this one in particular or anything, but when you're writing, do you write scenes and think about how you would direct it and different shots you would have doing that while writing?
I did on this screenplay because I thought I was going to, at that point, I thought I was going to be one of the directors. I would be directing. So if you're directing, you write, I think, in a different way than if you're not. But I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure. That's this new screenplay I'm working on. I'm doing that like I was a director, and I'm not going to be the director. So, yeah, you do think like that. I mean, you do think visually. You do think of the way you want to see it happen. It doesn't always turn out like that, but you do. Yeah, you think like that. I do.
Sole writer on that.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, after all these years, this was the first one that you did solely on your own, and now you've got another one lined up.
Right.
Start the next leg of your career.
Well, maybe. Let's see. Let's see.
So my last question was, when you're trying to get a film made, when you're trying to get it to different producers and fund and raise for it, what is the best way to go about that?
Well, I mean, the best way is to have the blessing of the film studio, and you just do it. They're happy with you, and they like the script that you've written or had written, and you just and the money is there from day one. And unless you go horrible with a budget or something like that, that's the best way. The rest is just a long slog, I'm afraid, to convince people to put up money for a film. But normally, most films really are made by people who are in the business of putting money up for film production. I mean, you don't really get money from rich old ladies, for instance, or 90 movie stars. It isn't like that. Most films are financed by groups that finance movies, and you just have to find those people and convince them. Sometimes you can't, like with Richard II. Well, I think maybe I will go back to my vacation.
Thank everyone again for coming. And again, please check out klamathfilm.org and see everything else we're working on, especially the film festival coming up next month. We have some even bigger plans in the film festival for the future, which I can't really talk about right now, but some amazing things on the horizon for Klamath Falls. Thank you all.
Thank you.